I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Pat Doyle, the co-founder of Degen Data. Pat, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into the world of NFTs, and I know you have a lot of information analytics behind NFTs. I would love for you to kick it off with a little bit about what you're doing with your firm, Pink Swan Trading, and Degen Data.
Yeah, sure. So me and my business partner run a company called Pink Swan Trading, which is kind of like our holding company under which we build crypto analytics products. So the two products that we have right now, the first is called Genesis Volatility, which is focused on crypto options analytics. And then the second product that we have in market is called Degen Data. And Degen Data is a NFT analytics product. So basically what we're doing with Degen Data is we saw in early 2021, the NFT market kind of growing organically among crypto natives. And we started understanding like this market is different than trading like liquid ERC20 tokens. And the difference is that like NFTs are really driven by the metadata value of like the characteristics of specific collections. And that stuff doesn't normally live on chain. So we basically started thinking like there needs to be tools to support finding, proper values and trade analytics around specific metadata features. And that was kind of the idea that kicked us into gear to start building products around the NFT space, specifically focusing on like extracting trades and trends based on metadata characteristics.
Definitely. Yeah, it's very interesting. And myself, I haven't heard a lot about analytics and NFTs at all. I hear about Bitcoin on-chain analytics or looking at blockchains. The only analytic I've really heard is like the volume is crazy on NFTs, on OpenSea. It's ahead of some of the major e-commerce platforms. And that's a good sign. But inside NFTs, how do you value them? How do you find upcoming trends? How do you know when, if it's a bubble or not? I'd love to hear your perspective on why you were so interested in like NFT analytics and what kind of information you find valuable.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think you're right. Like identifying the macro trend that like NFTs are here to stay. OpenSea volume is continuing to grow. The number of new users coming into OpenSea every day grows, month over month. And those are great macro trends to say like NFTs aren't going away. But if you go a layer deeper and you're actually trading, buying and investing in NFTs, that's where like the nuances of each project becomes very important to understand. And that's kind of, we build tools for ourselves for the most part. Like we cater to the things that we like in crypto as we've been, crypto natives for the past, 5-6 years. And so I think that was we saw that, as you're trading these things, you really need to understand, who's doing what, how is the project growing, what metrics are people finding, or what, characteristics are people finding valuable? What are some of the major collectors doing? Are they selling their entire portfolio? Are they allocating more ETH to, building their collection? And I think the interesting part on the NFT side is that there's like the social component of NFTs is a really interesting like value driver. So how big is the community of holders, or is it isolated to a few single wallets concentrating like the entire, collection, and ultimately would, can do and influence price more. So there's a lot of different ways to look at these projects. And I think for us, it was really focusing on like the trader community and mindset around people who want to dive deep into like the specifics of each project.
Definitely. And I'd love to dive deep into that. Let's just say that there's somebody that is been in cryptocurrency, maybe they have Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're interested in exploring into NFTs, buying some, maybe flipping them, maybe investing for years to come. Is the platform live right now? And is it just available for anybody that wants to buy an NFT or just wants to know more information?
Yeah, so degendata.io is the site, and everything's open and free. We support about 15 different NFT projects. These are kind of the ones that we see as kind of having the longest lifespan, or having, we see them being a credible project and resource in the NFT ecosystem for the foreseeable future. So I think for for people getting started, kind of curating projects that are worth investing some time into understanding, that we try to kind of take away you having to research which projects do people like, what are some of the things that people are interested in. So I think from like an investor perspective, somebody getting right into NFTs, there's a lot of good, if you like it from the collectible standpoint, obviously there's a lot of collectible projects or profile picture projects. And then there's also kind of the whole other wave of NFTs, of art in NFTs. So there's the big generative art movement, which was kind of led by art blocks. There's new AI art movements happening on chain. So I think it just, depends on what you're interested in, but all that data is there to, ready to consume for anybody who's interested in looking at it.
Definitely. And with the name, I'm sort of curious about, Degen Data and how NFTs started. It's really started as digital art, but there's so much functionality that can be put into NFTs, and we're still so early on, and I feel like that degen, like the degenerates sort of ape into things without a lot of information, or they're early adopters and innovators, because it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It just means that, they're ready to jump into something without a lot of information. I'd love to hear your perspective on, the name behind it, and if that relates to where NFTs are at.
Yeah, so it's funny because you're right. There's like people in crypto tend to wear like the degenerate badge of honor. Like it's I ape into things because that's just what you do in crypto. And so there's a component to the name of that, but the reason we named the product Degen Data is because like when we got into this, we saw like this like overlap between DeFi and generative art kind of coming together. So we saw the first project that we started researching heavily was Hashmasks, and they had like a yield earning kind of component to it. So you're earning tokens for holding the asset over time. And so we started to see like NFTs and DeFi becoming a union. And so then we were like, well, if it's kind of DeFi and there's a big generative art movement and everybody loves kind of the degen mindset, this is a good name. And obviously being a data product, we want people to ape appropriately. That's kind of how we think about it. So if we give you the tools and the data, at least if you're going to ape, do a little bit of research before. For sure. But that's kind of how we were thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. And I know that we are early on, and I'd love to sort of hear a glimpse about, as you move forward, as NFTs continue to grow and the functionality continues to grow, where do you see Degen Data in 5 years from now, or even longer, and in the space, and how that reflects in where NFTs will be at that point?
Yeah, I think looking at NFT, like the NFT macro trend, I think what we're seeing now is a lot of big brands getting to the space, and I see that becoming a very clear trend for for the foreseeable future. I think Adidas just partnered with Bored Apes and Punk's comic and a few other projects or influencers in the space. So I see that as being kind of a clear trend that the space is going directionally. From the Degen standpoint, actually what we're kind of gearing up to do is we're going to actually be selling Degen Data, so we can align some of our engineering resources to our other product line, Genesis Volatility. So we're going to be doing some pretty interesting stuff in the crypto options space in the foreseeable future. So we want to kind of realign our engineering team. But where we see Degen Data going actually is the way that we're going to be selling it is we're going to be selling our company's CryptoPunk with all the IP of our product and assets attached to it. And we think that that's like a really, that's a highlight of what NFTs are. They attach like the value of what you can put behind them. It's not necessarily just the value of the asset itself. It's like what it represents and what it means. And we think that is going to be a trend that like NFTs will embody more than just a profile picture in the future. So as we kind of transition and build that product and get it ready for the sale, where we ultimately love to see Degen Data going is being acquired by a DAO or being a product that is used to fund DAO developments. And so we think that that's a really interesting kind of Web3 native way to sell an asset do an M&A on chain, and then continue to provide back to the DAO, the growing DAO ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. And it's super interesting, Pat. It sounds like so your Degen Data has a CryptoPunk, and you're going to be selling that, but also you have all of this analytics information in the platform, and not just about the space as a whole, but about the analytics of the platform itself. And if you're sort of selling that and incorporating it into the NFT, it's like you're able to tokenize the whole M&A and sell it and super easily, like using the technology that the platform is actually designed for.
Yeah, and that's what we think is like really exciting. And we've seen a lot of people are using NFTs as like a social, reputation based. Mm-hmm. This is who my digital identity is, and we've seen people get like insane offers to buy their NFTs, but people are so attached to them or have so much conviction in their personal reputation on chain that they turn down, a $10 million offer mm-hmm. on a CryptoPunk. That was like one example. But we think that we took the approach of like building a product and a brand around it, not so much our personal identity. And I think the more that becomes the norm, the more you can integrate the transferability, kind of the Web3, DeFi Legos, like everything becomes a financial product that you can trade, transfer, sell over time. So, we think this is a really interesting way to push NFTs into like a new category of like what they represent.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's crazy to see some of these CryptoPunks going for so much money and people just not willing to sell them, mm-hmm. And I don't know if there's a correlation, but, it sort of reminds me of like when domain names when they first came out and like people wanted to buy domain names for millions of dollars and people were refusing to sell them. But those domain names now are not worth almost nothing, or, kind of compared to what they were, it's more average price now. Do you see any similarities in the NFT craze and how it's growing so quickly? And perhaps it could be in a bubble that could come down, but then could go back up as well as it sort of normalizes and is more standard in society?
That's a good question. I think from the domain perspective, the Ethereum name service, ENS, is a great example of domain squatting. Like people would go mm-hmm. and scoop up all these domains back in the day and sell them. And I think if you look at ENS volume, there's more desirable, low character count, brand name, ENS names that actually sell for like a premium. And then you have a handful mm-hmm. of just more generic stuff that maybe sells, but it's not there's like an infinite supply of ENS domains. Mm-hmm. There's only ever going to be 10,000 CryptoPunks. They have a really strong part, being an OG in a crypto space. And I think a lot of that I think those are kind of the key differentiators as opposed to like, this eternal supply of domain names. But yeah, I think that's just the slight difference between what, a profile picture NFT looks like compared to a domain name. So I do think there's strong, there's going to be continued growth in the NFT space. I think the NFT projects that have kind of solidified themselves as the leaders in the space, Bored Apes, CryptoPunks, some of the other, art blocks, I think those are going to continue to drive value to their holders, to their community. I do think, the 10,000 profile picture wave has come and gone with every animal having its own profile picture. So I think it's really kind of sifting through the noise and finding the things that are really going to last the next 5 to 10 years.
Definitely. And I think that using Degen Data's analytics would obviously bring more information to make a decision on whether this is something that's it's going to be hot today and not tomorrow, or something that might have long lasting value.
Exactly. And it's funny because like even in newer projects, like a good metric to be aware of is if you want to be in a project and have like liquidity, I mean, these assets don't trade like everything mm-hmm. else. There's periods of active trading and then there's lulls. And so like if you're trading a brand new profile picture project, there's usually like the first 3 to 5 days where people are actively trading them after they drop. And this is because like people are trying to figure out what they have. They don't know what they have. They want to like, speculate on what's the rarities of things like that. And it usually takes people about a week or so to figure it out. And then you start to see the floor price kind of come down, volume drop. So again, those are all the trends that you can start to kind of like isolate and build into some of the strategies that you might, if you want to actively flip stuff, it's better to do it early on than later. If you want to invest for the long term, find projects where you see high-end, high net worth collectors placing their bets. And so those are some of the, just depends on your strategy, depends on what you're interested in doing. And those are some of the different ways that people are kind of analyzing these markets.
Definitely. Thank you, Pat. I appreciate all of that information. That really does help with people that are just getting into NFTs and they have no idea because there's so many different types and analytics are different from on-chain analytics. For the viewers that are looking to continue to learn more, use Degen Data, join in the communities, what's the best way for them to stay in the communities and active?
Yeah, so you can follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @Degen Data. So we're always providing kind of market commentary, things that we're seeing, projects that we find interesting. Or if you're just curious to explore the tools, you can go to degendata.io. And if anyone ever has any questions, our Twitter DMs are open. We're always happy to answer questions that people have. So those are kind of the two main platforms that we can be reached at.
Amazing. I will leave those links in the description box below as well. All the best moving forward. Good luck with the CryptoPunk and the whole platform altogether. And let's follow up in the near future, Pat.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ashton.